Hey y'all, welcome to Wednesday, where the word for today is fruit. Fruit, yeah, I said fruit. And I even brought a nice shiny red apple today as an object lesson of good fruit in our lives. You may be asking, Stoffer, why in the world is fruit the word of the week? Well, it comes as a reflection in my life from watching the presidential debate last night. I don't know if you watched it. I watched about an hour of it before I kissed my wife Deneen and went to bed. And quite frankly, that hour was probably 55 minutes too long of watching the debate. Because I don't know about you, but what I felt inside of me as I watched those two individuals who have great respect for President Trump and great respect for Vice President Biden, but what I felt inside of me as I watched their so-called debate was a bunch of bad fruit. There was angst in my heart. And so at a point that I couldn't take it anymore and I felt all kinds of ugliness building up in me, I kissed my wife and went to bed. And one of the responses that I think God had me as I laid my head on the pillow was not being in angst over these two men and maybe the bad fruit that they were producing in that night, but asking myself the question, Stoffer, if your life was on display for the whole entire nation to see, what kind of fruit would they see? What kind of fruit is growing on your tree? Is it good fruit? And I became reflective to the point of thinking about Galatians chapter 5. In Galatians chapter 5, it tells us that when the Spirit who dwells in us, when we are surrendered and obedient to the Spirit of God that abides in us, there will be a distinctive fruit that is produced. That fruit is love and joy. That fruit is peace and patience. That fruit is kindness, goodness. That fruit is faithfulness and gentleness. And that fruit is self-control. Quite frankly, none of those things were evidence in the presidential debate last night, but that's not the point. The point that I think God was making to me is, how about my heart? And so today, as a Wednesday word, I ask about the fruit in your life, in your heart. Are you indeed surrendered to the Spirit of God, that your life is producing love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control? It's a good question to ask, that we're not in angst over men that we watched on TV, but that we might be more in angst over our own reflection of our own lives. I ask you, what kind of fruit is your life producing? If your life was on display for all to see, what would they see? My prayer for me is that it's more and more a life that's surrendered to the Spirit. My prayer for you is that it's more and more a life surrendered to the Spirit that dwells in you. That maybe today, maybe tomorrow, maybe this week, we might show the evidence of the fruit of the Spirit in our lives. And indeed express love, to have joy, to bring about peace, to exercise patience, to be embraced by goodness and kindness and gentleness, faithfulness, that our lives might be exercised in self-control. The word for the day is fruit. What kind of fruit is your life bearing? Have a great one. God bless.